Okay, everybody, I'm still testing out this new kind of webcam thing. I'm not quite used to all this fancy stuff anymore, and this is supposed to have a speaker with it too, so we're going to test that tonight. I've had kind of a rough week, everybody. Even though I'm still walking and talking and moving my hands, and of course I've babied my body, listened to my body for almost 10 years to keep myself going, because my number one thing was I wanted to take care of myself. So I'm still doing that. And it'll be 10 years in September. I really think my ALS started out with a weak diaphragm. Now, a lot of you people, when they say it starts, with the breathing and the voice, mine started with the voice. Mine was with the breathing. Of course, I was falling down. Mine was kind of all over the place. When I got diagnosed, and the gummies have helped a lot of stuff, but the weak diaphragm, I got put on that BiPAP right when I was diagnosed, and I was a CPAP. I got worse, and they couldn't figure out why, and then they diagnosed me with ALS, and the guy says, no wonder you need on a BiPAP. So I got put on that BiPAP over 8 years ago, and then they put me on the NIV vent about a year ago. I think in July coming up. And if I wouldn't have got that, I probably wouldn't be here today, because I was getting CO2. I knew, I'm older, and, all of us old people forget things, and we all do that, okay? That's normal. But this was different. Like, these were things I should have known, and I couldn't remember, and I felt weird, and my oxygen was kind of wacky, and everything. I knew. I looked up CO2 and I thought, oh crap, this is what I have. I figured that out. And so when I called them, they were really good with the therapists and everything. And they ended up setting me up with an NIV vent, and that's been a godsend for me. And I'm still here, everybody. But now what's happening, I just use that at night. And what I've been doing is I stay in bed an hour or two in the morning and stay on my machine just to get on it a little longer, so I don't need to be on it during the day. Out the fans. I got my fan over here. I don't know if you can see maybe the top of it, but I put that fan on, and that's helped. Now, because I am going to be 10 years, I've had a weak diaphragm since day one. My diaphragm is really weak, okay? And so I'm trying to stay as mobile during the day as I can without being on a machine. I really feel, anyway, with my body, I don't know about you guys's, but with my body, I train it to do certain things, and I monitor stuff, and my body lets me know if I don't like something. And so I don't want it to get used to some things that I don't want to do all the time. I guess that's kind of weird, but that's what I do. I mean, I've even trained my body after I fill up my water bottle. I drink, my water, and then I go to the bathroom, and I've trained myself to pee every time I go to the bathroom. And if I forget to do that, I almost don't make it, okay? So that's something I've done. Now, what's happened this last week or two is my oxygen has been dropping, sometimes down to 77, and then it'll go back up into the upper 80s or low 80s and back up to 90. Everything on my body goes like this, okay? Now, before I got my North Pro magnets and the ones that I bought locally down here, everything was going like this, okay? Now, since the magnets, it goes like this, okay? So, a lot of the stuff I tell you is not going to cure you, okay? Even the gummies aren't going to cure you, but what they're going to do is give you a more, I guess, slow down your ALS, help you take care of yourself longer, help keep you more mobile. That stuff, it helps you live longer, okay? It's the only thing I have found that really works to make you live longer. And so, and I'll explain what I'm doing with those now because I am 10 years down the line and I probably need to do more drastic measures to stay alive. So what I've been doing, what happened the other night is, I bought that thing that wraps around you. I think I showed you guys, and I've been wearing that some. And I I'd worn that, and then the next night I tried to go without it, and my oxygen was dropping. Okay, too much, up and down, up and down. And so I told my boyfriend, he happened to be here, I said, I'm going to go in, I'm going to get on my machine. So I walked in there, I laid down, and I thought, I want to find out what my oxygen's doing. Well, lo and behold, my oxygen was a little better. And I'm sitting there, what's going on? So I laid there a while. I waited for about a half hour. I checked my oxygen again, and it was still back up to about 95 or 96. And I thought, wow. And then I thought, I'm laying on my Pro magnets here in this bed. And I have the pillow thing, and I have my side of the bed that has these Pro magnets. And so I kept checking, and it kept my oxygen up better. Okay. Now I sleep on this when I'm on my NIV vent. So when my therapist comes, I'm going to have to tell him that I'm worse off than it's showing on my vent because I'm sleeping on these magnets and they're helping. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to look on Amazon and see if they have a chair one to put on my computer chair. Because you guys go sit on a wheelchair every day. I sit on this computer chair, okay? I sit here, I have a big screen TV, I type, that's my exercise for my fingers, and it works, and I wear these. These, I found out, they press where all your weak muscles and muscles die in here. They're great, and you can still use your hands. And I sleep in these, I wear these. These and my compression socks are on me 24/7. And then when I shower about every 3 days, I put clean ones and then I throw these in the washer, okay? And I've never had a problem. Wore these ever since I seen them. A guy showed them to me on one of the forums. I thought, wow. And the more I learned about these, the better they were. And the compression socks too has kept me, I don't have swelling legs, I don't get cramps. It's almost like a second skin both places, and my body has adapted to them. And so they're part of me now. But anyway, what I found was you can use this in your car, you can use it on a computer chair, and it's supposed to come Thursday. So what I'm going to test is I'm going to put it on my chair with the magnets and see if I can set on that, have that on my, on my back where my diaphragm is, and I'll have my fan blowing, and we'll see if that helps my oxygen more during the day, okay? And I'll let you guys know, because like I said, that'll come Thursday, and next week I can jump in and see if that worked or it didn't work, because I wasn't ready to be on that 24/7. I know I'm headed that direction, but as long as I can do this and just be on it maybe 8-10 hours at night, I'm okay with that, okay? So that's what I'm working on. And I got those magnets and put in my shoes too. They had those on Amazon, the Pro Magnet shoe magnets. And the first few days, I guess I didn't pay that much attention. But then I started wearing them, and then I got up one night, I was super wobbly, and I thought, what's going on? And I thought, oh gosh, I don't have my magnets on. And so I put my shoes on, and wow, my walking was better. Even my boyfriend says, why are you walking worse? I said, because I don't have my magnets and my shoes on, and I put them on and I walk better. So these magnets do help you with ALS. I talked to the guy about it. Um, I mean, it's little things. They don't have anything that helps us really, okay? All they have is equipment. And I don't own any equipment except those things you squeeze to lift things when they go down. Because I found out I probably have, God, I can't think what it is, but mine moves around. Sometimes I eat and I can't eat because there's like something stopping it. Or I bend down, I get this horrible pain where my diaphragm is, and so those things are a godsend. So I've seen them on the forum. Some guy showed them that he bought them. And so these came in twos. I got one by my bed and one by my computer. So that helps me not have to deal with that. So, but I don't use I try more off the wall things, I guess, and I visit with the people. I get on YouTube, I watch things, I research it all over the world, okay? Just like my Vinia coffee, I watched that for a whole year. And then I bought the coffee. And I have to say, that has helped me and my boyfriend both. You know, it's supposed to take your blood vessels and open them more, and that's helped my heart. My heart has been very low, and so anything that will open up and give my blood vessels better flow of my blood and stuff to my heart is better. So those are the two areas that I'm really struggling with, is the low heart rate and my oxygen dropping too low and stuff. Now last night something went off. I don't know if it's my phone from I use this ring. It was called a pulse ring, and I bought that because I always watched online on my BiPAP, so I knew how my apneas were or my quick breathing and stuff was. And they didn't have anything like that with this Vince. So this had the sleep thing. And this tells me how much sleep. It shows my oxygen going like this all night. And it also tells me if I get REM sleep. And I never had any REM sleep. I think that's an ALS thing. I had no REM sleep for years. I don't even dream. And I still don't dream. But now sometimes I get an hour REM sleep sleeping on these magnets, sometimes a half hour. Sometimes I only get a minute. Sometimes I get none. But that's usually when I'm really ramping bad. But as an average, I get about a half hour REM sleep. And I'll tell you what, that REM sleep gives us 100% more energy. I can't believe how I feel more normal and energy sleeping on that magnet pad, and how with the REM sleep it gives me more energy. And then I drink my Vinia coffee. And I've had fatigue so bad about 5 or 6 years ago where I was bedridden, after that COVID for 2 years. I mean, believe me, I understand fatigue. And even when I felt better, I always felt kind of, fatigued a little bit. Boy, I tell you, since I've slept on those magnets, I I have to, like I said, I have to be careful so I don't overdo myself, especially with my heart, my weak diaphragm. So, but it makes you feel so much better. So, I guess I encourage you all, if it's something, don't just buy something because somebody says to do it always. I don't tell you guys anything unless I have researched the crap out of it and talked to people, watched doctors on YouTube, watched, looked all over the world on my research. And then I decide, well, you know what? This is worth me trying it. And I've spent money on worse things, okay? So, I think hopefully this will be the last magnets I have to buy, and I'll have pretty much have most everything covered now. So, but I wanted to tell you about that because I couldn't believe how that was helping my diaphragm and helping my oxygen stay up better. So, anyway, like I said, mine get dropped down to 77, but then it, like within like a half a minute, it goes back up to like 82, and then it goes up to 88, and then it'll go up to 92. Sometimes it's doing stuff like that, but everything's always going all over the place on me. But it's better because before I got this necklace here, this has magnets in it, and it's supposed to help your AFib. My heart rate was going up to 138 and dropping down to 11. Okay, that was too hard on my body, and I didn't figure I was going to last long with that either. So now my heart rate drops down maybe into the 30s and 40s, and it may go up to 100 or 103. That I can handle, okay? It's still doing that. So they didn't completely take the AFib away, but you know what? That's a win for me to have it not drop so bad. And it's just going like this now. And the same with my heart and my diaphragm. That's what I'm trying to do too with getting these magnets, is keep my oxygen. So maybe it drops down into the upper 80s and it stays, I shoot for 95. That's my goal, is to try to keep 95 during the day. I used to always be 98. Now, but sometimes I get up after I'm up and go to the bathroom, and off the magnets, everything drops, and it can be in the 80s or the 94s. So this is what I'm working, is to see how much daytime I can be without being on a machine. This is my goal. So we'll see what happens. If I can even gain another year or 6 months, it was worth getting these magnets to do that. Now on the gummies too, I've got that one video I want you guys to watch if you're just starting gummies, because I had just started them. I'd hardly ever taken gummies before, or any type of marijuana. So that's made for you guys to explain things and show things. Now, over the years, like I told them, you know, you start out with a fourth, you go to a third. If that isn't helping slow down your stuff, try a third. I don't know what your body can tolerate. I didn't know what my body would tolerate. So I like starting low, working up. You're going to know I've never, ever felt high, okay? I feel more normal. I don't feel high. And that's what some people say, well, it don't work because they take it for 2 days and they don't, it's not going to cure you. If you're already in a wheelchair, you probably will stay in a wheelchair. Kathy from Florida that I told you guys about. She was already in a wheelchair and she never got out of the wheelchair. The muscles were already dead, okay? They're not going to bring the dead muscles back to life. But she said after she started smoking marijuana, she never got worse, okay, other than normal, over the time. She lived over 30 years, everybody, and she was still in her wheelchair, but she lived 30 years. She never was on invasive breathing. You know, she did great. She never got a feeding tube. She was still eating and talking. And that was my goal, is after seeing her, and if you can look up hers, Kathy Jordan, I think it was called, and from Florida, Kathy, with the ALS. I've got it down on one of my videos because she's been gone now for a couple of years. But she got ALS when she was in her 30s, okay? And I know a lot of you are in your 30s. And she was my age, and she did pass here a couple years ago. And she did great. She was my motivation. She got a tumor in her brain, and they actually put the marijuana stuff in the brain. And when they operated, the tumor had broke off out of her brain. The doctor said he'd never seen anything like it. He just took the tumor out, okay? And she was cancer free then. And that's why when I got my cancer, I remembered that. And so I upped my meds, okay? Now these meds are kind of expensive. They went up a little bit. I'm a poor lady. I do the poor way of ALS, and I have to say I think it works better than the expensive way, okay? But anyway, these gummies I started taking, I was up to a half a one every 6 hours. And then I decided when I got this, I thought, you know what? I need to get this up to, because I was at 10, up to 15, 20, 25, 30 mgs a day. Most people do 20 mgs for medical. I was up to 30 mgs because that's what I did to try to get rid of this cancer, okay? I upped my gummies. And I wasn't feeling any worse. I didn't feel high. My body must have wanted it. I don't know, but I did fine with them. So I did those, and then after that, I thought, okay, between 30 and 40 a day, I probably need to do that, but I couldn't afford to spend $20 and go through those 10 gummies, you know what I'm saying, with as high as I was. And I love how God works. I really do. Because my boyfriend wanted to buy chips, and we pulled in, and then he says, oh, look there's a smoke shop. And he says, I got to get some little papers. And we walked in there, and I noticed they had some different gummies and stuff. And I said, do you have THC gummies? He says, yes, and he whips them out. Oh my gosh, these were like 3,500. Like the ones I told you guys to do were 100, okay? And there's 10 in there. These were 20, and they were 3,500. They even had some 4,000s. And they were a little higher. I think they were like 50 or 60 for a jar, but I sat there and I thought, okay, if I cut those into 6 pieces, each gummy, that would last me over a month and a week probably, okay? So that's a lot cheaper, $60, than paying what I would have had to pay for the cheaper gum, or they're not cheaper, they're just less marijuana in them. But when you start, that's what you need, and your body, that'll do just as good as what I'm doing, this amount. My amount 40 will do the same as your 10 will, okay? Because my body has adapted over 10 years with these gummies, and you've probably never taken this stuff, and so it's going to react this a little better for you with the lower amount, and then you slowly work up like I did through the years, okay? And so that's what I've been doing. Well, so what I'm doing now is, I told you guys that I had that stuff in the jar and I put a little in my nose. So what I'm trying, and it's worked pretty good, is I do these gummies, these high gummies that I cut in 6 pieces. I do one little piece before bed, I do one piece in the morning, and I do one piece late in the afternoon. But when I get up, after, there's like about 6 hours, when I get up, I put that stuff in my nose. Now that stuff will go for 6 to 8 hours, I think, the stuff in my nose. And eventually I'm going to try to work into that more. Now the only reason I haven't, I'll be honest, is that stuff gives me more energy. And for sleeping, I don't know how that's going to affect me if I put that stuff in my nose. Is that going to make me awake all night? I'll let you know, because I'm going to try it one of these nights. But for getting up in the morning, I get up, I do good, I put it in my nose. I've had my REM sleep, I drink my Vinia coffee, I put that stuff in my nose, and I feel great, okay? So, but I don't know if I want to put that stuff in my nose before bed. So, and I'm not sure how, I check. I have these little things like this, okay? And I check my oxygen and heart rate when I'm testing stuff all the time. And, but you know what? That way I know, is this working? Is this not working? Okay, how am I feeling? Am I cramping up? Am I dropping everything? How is this doing? Um, and also another thing, a lot of people are ending up in the hospital with pneumonia and stuff. Now, I have a theory, anyway, this is with my phlegm, what I have experienced. That phlegm can get in your colon, that phlegm can get in your voice box, that phlegm can get in your sinuses. I've been sneezing for 2 months. Every time I sneeze, my boyfriend chases me with the spray when he's here. And I told him, I says, I've been sneezing with this ALS crap with the phlegm getting in my sinuses for 2 months. It's not like I'm contagious, but it's another thing I got to deal with is the sneezing I get sometimes. So if I'm sneezing more, if I'm coughing more, if my voice is more raspy, my voice is a little weak because of my weak diaphragm anyway. Anyway, I take sulflaxin. It's an antibiotic. Years ago, my pulmonary guy said, if you ever have anything with your lungs, take sulflaxin, okay? That's what I took when I had COVID, and I'm here, and they sent me home to die. So that, my machine and my gummies, and the good Lord, and I'm here. So what you do is you tell your doctor, as I get, this phlegm gets in my lungs all the time, it gets in everything, and I end up in the hospital. And if I had these antibiotics at home, and I have them, I went to Mexico and bought a ton of them, okay? And now I'm having my doctor prescribe them because I told him that's what keeps me out of the hospital. And when I even start, I know immediately on my coughing, if I'm getting more phlegm, if I can tell I'm getting something, I go on that sulflaxin. And usually I only have to take it maybe 2 or 3 days, and boom, I'm better. And so I don't take it the whole week like they prescribe it. I just, because with ALS, nothing works the same as if we didn't have ALS, okay? And so that's what I've done with my ALS is I take that for 2 or 3 days, and I haven't been in the hospital for any of my stuff, okay, my cold or anything. The only thing I went in was to get that tumor out that time, but I stayed out of the hospital. And to be honest, I don't know that I will go into the hospital. Just like when my oxygen, my heart rate and oxygen dropped so low. Everybody says, you should have went to the hospital. I said, why? I've dealt with this for how long? And I'm going to deal with it now, okay? And if I die, the good Lord takes me. And if I'm here to help people, okay? But, I've learned my body, and I know that when it drops that low, it usually will come up sooner, okay? It doesn't just stay down there for hours and hours. And usually, too, if it drops, and let's say I'm sitting here, I get up, I try to go in, fill up my water. I jump up, I go fill my water when it's empty. I go into the bathroom. That's my little exercise all day long. I do that. And I always check that, my oxygen and my heart rate to see what's going on. I have to, but so anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it that way. Also, for some of you new people, I don't know if you've seen, I used to lead medical teams into the mission field. We ended up in Belize, and the country, the medical part of the country, opened me with open arms, okay? And they would let me take teams into very remote villages. But I was responsible for the meds for these doctors and nurses and students that came. So I had a book and I learned all about all kinds of meds, okay? And studied them. And then I had the Mayan people that took me out in the jungle and showed me all these plants and everything that help people and do stuff. So that's probably why I'm more open to the magnets and the gummies, because I spent 10 years over there, and they used to call me doctor. The medical people over there called me doc. They called me a jungle doctor. So and it's like, I have to say, I love how the good Lord has just laid things out before me, even with me getting ALS, on things that help me so much now, okay? All kinds of things that help me. It's not a coincidence. It can't be that many things. Just like getting on the BiPAP. If I wouldn't have got on that BiPAP, I wouldn't be here today, okay? These two people that showed up to help me on this NIV event, again, I would have been gone again. And now with the magnets, I just happened to get up that day, and my 55 Park said, we have Dr. So-and-so here talking about North magnets, and I could just tell that the good Lord wanted me to go listen to this. And then when I went up and talked to him about this ALS stuff, and the guy that was there, he used to have fibromyalgia and be in a wheelchair, and he's walking and talking to us. And then his wife, she had Alzheimer's, and they put the magnets in a hat and put on her head. I was talking to her, and she says, yeah, I'm the same age you are. I mean, she didn't even know who her husband was, and then she knew who he was. So, our bodies are all different, and some people it might help more than other people. But like I said, there's people I know that say, well, you still have AFib. But I'm not dropping down to 11. I'm not going up to 138. Okay? I will take what I have right now because with my ALS, that's as good as it's going to get, I guess, is the best thing to say. But so anyway, if you guys have any questions, not that I have all the answers, but I do research. I still do research, okay? Like I said, I'm a little disheartened over some of the forums because there's a few people on there that I don't know what's going on with them, where they're boo-cooing all of us people that we don't do the norm and we're not spending $100,000, we don't want to listen to you. That's kind of how I get from them people. And it's like, okay, but I'm an old jungle doctor. My grandpa had this, and I still remember as a little kid my grandpa. What I remember from my grandpa is him sitting there in his wheelchair talking to me and laying in bed talking to me. And I remember my dad laying in the hospital, had him hooked up to all this crap and looking in his eyes and like, get me off of this. And it's like, I can't, your wife, he had remarried and she wanted him to be on it. So I can't do anything as the daughter. And I never will forget the look on his eyes. He did not want it. And he only lived about a month past that, okay? Knowing him, he probably took it off. But anyway, I just liked my grandpa with, how he did his stuff. And so I keep everything simple. I try to keep myself as normal as I can. For you new people, if I get new people on here, that's why I go over some of this stuff because I don't know who watches this, for sure. But, and then some people made a comment the other day, and I think it was geared at me. These people that talk about God and push their stuff, you know what? I don't make a dime off of this. I don't make nothing off of YouTube. I spend money. I buy my own gummies. I've spent my own money to buy my magnets. I don't make any money off of the gummies or magnets. I'm just telling you where I got them because researching takes a lot of time, and I've done that, and I found out where the good magnets are, where the bad magnets are. I learned, on the gummies too, and I test things and try them. And um, like I said, I'm not just saying, oh, well, do this, do that. No, I've tried this stuff, and then I pass it on to you guys if it works or it doesn't work, okay? So I'm going to let you go tonight, and like I said, I'm excited because Thursday my chair thing's going to come, and then I'll pop on here maybe next week and let you know how that's working for me, or the next week. We'll see, give it a week or two and see how those magnets are working on this chair, if that's helping with my fan and that. But the fan used to work, only the fan. But I've been having to wear that frequency magnet thing around my waist, and it's pretty heavy. And what I'm trying to do is get the chair magnets so I can just sit here with the fan again. But then if I go out, I may have to wear that magnet thing under my shirt so that my oxygen don't drop while I'm out there, okay? So anyway, that's where I'm at, and I just wanted to share everything. And I thank you guys so much, and God bless you all, and I hope you all have a good summer. Thank you. Bye-bye.